Hey my tech friends, thanks for stopping by. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's continue to grow this channel. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Hey guys, welcome back to another Scepter or Spectre Windows 10 Ghost Edition. So this is still our older version or older build revision of the Ghost OS. Specifically, the system's running 20H2. And something I wanted to take a look at today with these operating systems is what does it look like from a maintenance perspective in order to still retain the original size, right? So if we decide we want to run updates on this operating system, does it change the actual footprint of the operating system? Or can we continue to maintain the small footprint even though we run a patch, say from Microsoft, right? For instance, maybe we want to do an in-place upgrade of this particular operating system to 22H2. Is it possible for us to roll this system up to 22H2 without causing a drastic difference in the size of the footprint of the operating system? And then once we get through that portion of this particular video to try to figure out as a proof of concept whether or not it's possible to upgrade this thing while it's in place, let's also play with it a little bit. Let's do some installations. Let's install some packages. Let's attempt to run different applications. Maybe we can install Steam on this box and see if the additional Steam requires any additional packages that were maybe knocked off of the build process to bring this thing back up to snuff to play these games. Let's take a look if there's more to this operating system than just the small size. In other words, even though the system works as an operating system, we could use it as a web browser. Will it function as a full-blown OS? Let's take a look and figure out if that's possible. Stick around. This is part 2 in our series. I'll put the link in the description for part 1 if you missed out on that. But let's start from here for part 2, and let's see if we can do an in-place upgrade. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do with this particular system is before I add this system to my network, so that way I get a public-facing IP address, I want to make some changes into the actual system itself. Number one, I want to remove the ability for this thing to register with DNS on my internal infrastructure. And number two, I want to make sure that the firewall is enabled. So to do that, simply just going to go to the Start menu and type in CMD. And once you find the command prompt, just right-click on that bad boy and make sure you either pin it to Start or pin it to the taskbar. I've already pinned ours to the taskbar, but that's just something to keep in mind. Then once you do that, just run it as admin. So now we want to turn the firewall on. And what we're specifically going to type in is the netsh command. So netsh adv firewall set all profile state on. And once you have that set, you just hit enter on your keyboard. And what that'll allow you to do is it will run the command to turn your Windows firewall back on. In the previous videos, when we do our initial scan, we shut the firewall off so we can get a pretty good idea as to the operating system security itself. So far, this particular operating system has done the best from the Windows small operating systems, especially in the Windows 10 flavor. I have yet to find the full-blown version for Windows 11. Somebody in the comments let me know that the particular video that I made for Rectify 11 isn't the same as the Ghost Scepter package, even though for whatever reason they are linked together on the website for the download. So if that's the case, if somebody knows where I could find the Windows 11 version of this Ghost Scepter operating system or Spectre operating system, if you could just throw me a link down in somewhere in the comments and just, do a mention like an @ my username so that way I see it. That would be awesome because I'd really like to get that installed so we could test the Windows 11 flavor as well. But anyway, I don't want to digress too far here. So we got the firewall turned off. Now let's jump back into the system here and let's also make sure we set our DNS so that way we don't have the need for our system to register its DNS with our internal network. So to do that, simply just type in control for the control panel to come up. And hit enter and you'll get the control panel up. Okay, so now once we have the control panel open, next thing we're going to do is go to the internet, network and internet. We're going to do view network status and tasks. And then on the right hand side, or rather left hand side, we're going to click on change adapter settings. And in here we're going to have our network adapter. So if you go to properties in here and you go to your TCP/IP v4 version, and then we go into advanced, and specifically DNS. At the bottom here, you're going to see something that says register this connection's address in DNS. If you uncheck that, what that'll do is it'll force your system to not register its DNS with the DNS server on your internal network. Now, for me, I like to do that just because I don't want these systems internally registering their DNS. I don't need to know specifically what these systems are. And since I tend to recycle a single IP address for these and use MAC filtering through my firewall so that way only certain ports are open. So in the event there's anything funky on this operating system, we don't get burned later down the road with our other test systems. So that's why I do this. Now for you, you don't necessarily have to do this, especially since we're doing a proof of concept. Maybe at the end you'll feel more comfortable, feel more secure running this operating system in your internal network. But I would also suggest that anybody that watches these videos understands that this is a very specific test in a very specific network in a very specific environment running specific out-of-the-box configuration software. So anybody that's going to run this at home, I would strongly suggest that you make sure you have a good antivirus on it. Make sure you do your own homework and look at the operating system to make sure that you don't have anything funky in it, because obviously different packages downloaded from different sites are going to have different options, features, and software contained in the operating system. So let's continue on. Now that we have our DNS changed on this particular network adapter, let's get this thing connected to the outside, and then let's run the in-place upgrade for this particular system, the 22H2. Okay guys, so we're back up. I ran the installation package for the VMware tools so that way we could get the full screen here. And the next thing I want to do is actually disable the built-in admin account and use a separate admin account to do the installation process, just to make sure, again, to keep us secure. Even though the Nessus scan comes back clean, that doesn't mean that we don't have legitimate add-ons into the system. Things that won't be found as functional, like viruses or malware or security issues. They could be just configurations that allow somebody into the system. I'm trying to reduce the possibility of that happening. So I think for the first thing we're going to do here is we're just going to go into our computer manager. And we just specifically want to go in here and go to users and make sure everything with the exception of the account we created is disabled. So as we could see, they all are disabled because during the installation of this particular operating system, you use username and password to do the install. So we just have our account that we created. Everything else is disabled. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to need to go to the internet. Now at this point, I'm sure I could use that Ghost toolbox specifically to download a browser onto the system, because as you can see, we don't have a browser. Everything right now is default with just the Internet Explorer browser. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to download a browser and put it on this. Traditionally, I prefer to use Firefox, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to use Google Chrome. And the reason why is because specifically, well, there we go. Apparently now we have Edge installed. No, we don't. Never mind. I take that back. That was short-lived. We have an update from Edge, but we don't have Edge installed. So let's get Firefox or some other browser on the system, and then we'll start off from there. Okay, so we're installing Chrome. Okay, guys, so we got a browser installed, and specifically what I needed to grab was the URL for the Windows Update Assistant. Specifically for this version of Windows 10, I don't have the one for 20H2 sitting around anymore to go from 20H2 to 22H2. So I grabbed the URL and then I uploaded my scripting to the system. So I wrote PowerShell scripting quite a while ago to silently install updates for Windows 10 to 22H2, as well as silently upgrade Windows 10 to Windows 11 to 23H2, so you don't have to go through the process to the older version first, yada, yada, yada. So now that I have those scripts migrated over to the system, if we go into Tools, Scripts, you'll see we have a Windows 10 update and we have a Windows 11 update, or upgrade rather, from Windows 10. And I'll include the body of this particular script, the Windows 10 update script, in the description of this. And if you guys want the Windows 11 upgrade script for Windows 10, just let me know. I could put that down there too. But I still am not hugely a fan of Windows 11, so doing an in-place upgrade, I don't know if I would recommend that. Not yet, anyway. I mean, time tells, right? So over time, Windows 11 might get better, and at that point, then all for it. And if you guys just want the script, let me know. I have no problem with sharing it. It really didn't take all that much time to create it. So for the sake of the system, I have a feeling that our execution policy is probably set to restricted through PowerShell, which is what it should be from a security standpoint. But before I go through the process of actually running the script, I want to make sure that we were rolling film, so that way, specifically, I could run the script, and if we get the error message from PowerShell, then we know that it's set for restricted, and that's a good step for security. Okay, guys, so let's specifically whack to this actual location. So we're going to go into here and just go into PowerShell, run as administrator. Okay, so we have PowerShell running now as admin. All right, so we're going to do the Windows Update PS1. We're going to execute this. And there we go. See about execution policies. So we probably have the execution policy configuration on this particular machine set to restricted. And we could check that. It's just simply get hyphen execution policy. And then just hit enter. And it'll tell you right here that it's set for restricted. So now we know that we have to change it to either unrestricted, or we could set it to maybe remote signed to see if we could still run our particular policy. Let's try to do the lesser of the evil and just change it to remote signed just for the time being and see if that works. And if it doesn't, then we could set it for unrestricted. And then once we're done, we could change it back to restricted so we don't lose the security of the system after we run the upgrade. Okay, so as you can see, I typed in set execution policy remote signed. And now I'm just going to specifically hit the enter key. And then it's going to ask me if I want to change the configuration to remote signed. And then it's going to basically lower security. So for the sake of this, I'm just actually going to hit A to yes for all. All right, so now if we do the get execution policy, we see remote signed. So let's try again to run this particular script for our upgrade and see if it works. Okay, guys, so I just re-enabled our network adapter so that way we're reconnected to the internet. And let's check this out. Let's see if we could actually get this to update now. So if we just do Windows 10 update, there we go. So I already have a C temp directory that exists on the system, so I throw an error because in my script I create the temp directory before I attempt to download it. And basically at this point what I'm doing is I'm downloading the installation package, and then I just use the silent switches in the Windows Upgrade Assist or Update Assistance package to install the latest version of 22H2 on the system through PowerShell. So let's see what happens. We'll run this. I will pause the video and come back and we'll take a look to see if this actually runs the upgrade. You know, I figured what we could do while we're waiting here to see if this actually runs the upgrade is to see specifically if we download the executable into the temp directory in the first place. Otherwise, we'll sit here twiddling our thumbs for absolutely no reason. So if we just jump back to our C drive and we go to temp, and there we go, we got the Windows 10 Update Assistant that's already downloaded. So at this point, once this thing completes out, it should force a reboot on the system and complete the upgrade process. So I will sit here and babysit this thing for a bit and start the video when we get into the reboot to see where we're at. You know, I figured while we're waiting for this thing to upgrade, maybe what we could do is we could check into this operating system a little more and try to figure out specifically what it is. So we could run the dism command against the specific system to pull up some information, specifically the dism online get edition. And what this should do is allow us to see whether or not this is running like pro, or if it's running, LTSC or LTSB, or if it's a, how it's licensed. Because during the installation process, if you don't remember during the video, we never got prompted for a key, or product key for the particular operating system. So right now we're clearly sitting here in the process of upgrading this thing to the latest build version. I haven't gotten chimed yet for any details as far as putting in a license key. And quite frankly, if I continue on working on this machine, I'll probably unlicense this particular version of operating system and put it back into a trial version, just because, again, realistically, for the sake of what we're doing for security testing, I don't really need the licensing, and I'd rather not run an unknown, unlicensed system on my internal infrastructure for the sake of these videos. But let's take a look. So what we're going to do is we're just going to run a dism command here. And we're going to find out specifically, we're going to get an error number 87, which tells us that this particular operating system, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to know what edition this is actually running. So then at that point, we figure, all right, well, we could run our slmgr command. And we could take a look specifically at the product key that's installed and figure out where that came from. So if we hit specifically slmgr /DLI, and then you hit enter, you'll get a product update, or rather a pop-up window here that will indicate, specifically what this operating system reports as. So it shows us that this is running Pro. It also shows us that this operating system thinks it's part of the retail channel. And then we have a partial product key, and then a license status. Now, when you see this and you see license status as notification, that means that this was originally a trial key, and the trial key has expired. And when you see the notification reason, this particular error code that's listed here, this value, indicates that the grace period for the trial key is well beyond where the actual operating system is. So at this point, this started out as a trial key that it looks like somebody put the time into, so that way it doesn't do the notification on the bottom to tell you that it's not a licensed product. But it absolutely is not a licensed product. So if we wanted to, we could remove the product key from this particular system and reboot it and basically put ourselves back into the trial mode. Or we could even try a rearm after the thing does the upgrade to see if we could rearm the product key as a trial version again, so we could get an additional couple days as grace period. So something that you'll notice is after you add the machine to a network where you have internet access on this Ghost version of Windows, is that in your start menu, if you go into like the suggestions here and you want to turn off all suggestions in Windows, you'll see that you need to activate Windows before you could personalize your PC, which tells us straight out that the activation on this particular machine is not configured, that there is no activation on this machine. It's specifically set up for, I guess, trial key mode, and in all honesty, in order to use it as a functional OS, you would need a Windows 10 retail key or OEM key. And the reason why I say or OEM is because you can use the SLMGR to actually convert your retail to an OEM and then install your key for your OEM configuration. Or if you're already on a machine that had Windows 10 pre-built, so an OEM machine like a Dell machine or an HP machine, chances are you would activate your system specifically off the key that you already have on your machine for the Windows 10 copy, which is why I'm sure some people, when they do the installation on bare metal, it works fine because your machine probably shipped with an OEM embedded key for Windows 10. Okay guys, so unfortunately it looks like the particular operating system won't allow us to do the upgrade. Specifically, the Windows Update looks like it's sporked. Let's see if we could fix the Windows Update on this particular OS so we can then try to do the Windows Update again to 22H2. Now, for this, I'm going to run some series of customized scripts that I've written over the years to see if we could reset the Windows Update policy configuration on this machine back to the default setting. And I'll walk you through the process along the way to see if we could actually get this to work. Okay, guys, so let's see if we could reset this stuff now. So before we do this, though, I want to take a look at our local group policy configuration. Okay, so in our local group policy configuration, let's see if we have anything in here at all. Okay, we do not. So there is no group policy involved in this configuration. However, that doesn't mean that there's no registry modifications involved in the configuration. And changing group policy would subsequently change your registry modifications. So let's take a look now to see when the last day the group policy configuration was touched and if there is anything in the folder structure. Okay, to do that, it's pretty simple, right? So we just need to go to cd group policy or change directory to the group policy. And then we do a dir to see when the last time there was anything written. So according to this, the build date likely on this machine was on December 7th, 2019. Or at least the initial build on the operating system. So there's nothing in here. There's no configuration of any kind in here. So basically what this tells me is that we're not dealing with group policy configuration when it comes to registry modifications that go on with the system. However, us putting group policy in here would rewrite those registry configuration changes. And the reason why I wanted to check this first is because if we go back into our folders directory here and specifically take a look at our scripts, if we edit a script, this is the script that we are going to run specifically to clean out our browser-based configuration, fix our Windows Update issue, and then revert our group policy on the local machine back to the default. Once you run that script, it's going to wipe and recreate all of the things like as in out-of-the-box configuration. So anything that's been customized in our IE, our Google Chrome, our Microsoft Edge, our group policy, or our Windows Update catalog are going to revert back to the default configuration. And in this additional script, I added the configuration for the SLMGR rearm, so that way we could see if we could rearm the trial key on this particular system to go back or revert back to the 3-day trial. So let's take a look. Let's run this. After it runs, it'll force the system to reboot. And once it comes back up, we'll take another look at this thing. So that looked like that ran too fast. Let's try this again and see if there's any errors specifically in the script on this particular version of Windows. Keep in mind, I don't know if we have any VBS blocking scripts or if we're not running, if the WMI is modified. That'll affect how this works. Okay, so what I did is I ran the script without, from inside the command line, so that way we could actually get the output. Again, I don't have this piped to a text file. I just didn't think of it, but at any rate, if we jump through here, we can see that we have our disabled process for a Windows Update is successful. Bits is successful. Crypt services is disabled is successful. Trusted installer disabled is successful. We don't have a DCOM launcher, I guess, install on this, or the access is denied. That's fine. We can start the bits configuration. We don't have under netstop to stop the Windows Update service. That doesn't exist. Application identification service isn't started in the first place. The executable doesn't exist as running. We can't find the program data directory for the .dat files. We're getting unexpected answer at this time. So we're failing out before we get even halfway through the script. Let's see if we can modify this slightly so we could actually get through the entire thing. Okay, so perhaps not surprisingly, my Linux system was the cause. For whatever reason, the Notepad tool that's built into the Linux box causes the word wrap to turn on even in scripts, which unfortunately when you're writing scripts for Windows, it doesn't understand what word wrap is inside of your script configuration, so it adds a space which causes issues. So now that I have that fixed inside of my script, we should now be able to launch the script, and it should run through to the end and then let us know that after 10 seconds it'll just reboot itself. Once it gets to that point and reboots itself and comes back up, let's kick off the video and see if that made any difference in our process, so that way we could see if we can update the system to the latest build of Windows 10. Okay, so we're rebooting. Let's see what happens when we come back up. Okay, so we're back up. Let's take a look to see if we've rearmed. Maybe we've gotten to the point now where we can turn off notifications in our settings. All right, we're reverted back to, I guess, a trial key on this particular system, which is good news. So that means that we can actually make some changes. I can shut off notifications. I don't need any of this stuff on here. Also, let's see if we have updates. All right, so we still have a configuration. I'm guessing a registry modification to not allow us to update until 2049. What happens if we resume? All right, so I know that we're not connected to the internet real quick, or rather right now. Let's get the internet reconnected on this machine, and let's attempt again to run our script to see if we could do the in-place upgrade to 22H2. Okay, so we're reconnected to the internet. At this point, we know that we have access to online. Let's open up our PowerShell. I'm going to run that as admin. I'm actually going to pin this thing to the taskbar so I don't have to go through this process every time. Let's change directory and go to our tools and scripts directory. Okay, let's run our Windows Update PowerShell script here. Let's see if we get this to actually update the operating system. So unfortunately, the way the script works, I don't have the options built into it specifically to only download it if it doesn't see that the file already exists. Just because in my experience with doing this, I've run into issues where it only half downloads it. Like, for instance, if you're going to run this as a logon script or something like that where you work in a business, you just can't tell when somebody's coming or going into the office or when they have internet or don't have internet. So I've run into situations where it'll download like half the package and then just puke on itself when it tries to like launch it when you come back. And as a result, I just say the heck with it and just run it. And it throws an error. It throws an error. I don't care. It's really not that big to download the executable. What is big is once it kicks off the installation process is how long it takes to actually download the full ISO so it could apply the update. That, you know, anybody that's done in place upgrade on Windows 10 or Windows 11 from one revision or feature pack to the next revision or feature pack knows that those files are enormous and it just takes time to download them. So hopefully this will finish out. Let's stand by for a few here. Let's check on it in a bit and see if it's started the process of the upgrade. Okay guys, so I just noticed through my task manager here on this particular system that it appears that the updates are now pulling again. It's going to download the prereq updates before it could update to the 22H2. Let's just jump into the settings location and check real quick to see specifically what we got going on. So there we go. We're downloading 22H2. We're at 5%. It's pending all of the other updates for the prereqs to actually get the 22H2 installed. There are prereqs to install this stuff, and I believe there's additional packages it tries to install with the 22H2 upgrade, so that way the whole thing will work together correctly. But it does work, at least for the upgrade process, after we run the script. Before I ran the script, we didn't have the particular services running we needed to have running. We had configuration in this thing that was blocking it from pulling updates. So from a security standpoint, while it was secured based off of 20H2 configuration, I want to get it up to date to the latest version and see if the operating system still continues to run correctly. And once we get all these updates installed, let's then run another scan against this system and see what it comes back as. Now, keep in mind, this operating system started off small. And after we have all these updates installed, chances are it's not going to be small anymore. I'm guessing it'll be about the same size as a typical Windows 10 22H2 system. But we could actually compare this system to another 22H2 system to see if it's bigger, smaller, or the same size after we get the updates installed. Also keep in mind that running that script likely turned additional services and functions, features back on the system that are required to run the updates. I don't know that I could put the script in the description, but I can put it in the body. so that way you guys have it so you could grab it if you want. Just keep in mind, if you run it, it's at your own risk. There are things in that script which will hard reboot or reset Chrome and Edge and Internet Explorer, so that way you could circumvent changes that took place in the script, and it'll also rearm the operating system for the key. So if you don't have, for instance, a key, if you need the script and you want it, let me know, and I could trim out the stuff for the browsers and trim out the rearm and just pop it into the body. Just let me know in the comments. Anything I can do to help you guys. If you guys want the ability to upgrade this version to the latest version, again, just let me know. If anybody still has that ISO file, though, I'd really like to check it out, see what we lose from doing it this way versus having the ISO file as a standalone. All right, I'll kick this video back off once I get the reboot done, so we get into the 22H2 configuration. Okay, guys, so that didn't take too long to get the update applied. We're going to have to do the restart to actually apply it to the system. If you take a look at the clock in the previous clip to now, you'll see the difference in time. But in all actuality, running the script to run the update, it cuts out a lot of the process. So in other words, it's not going to check for compatibility. It's not going to check your hardware. It's not going to check to make sure that you have the prereqs or all of the prereqs required. It's going to do the minimum amount in order for you to do the in-place upgrade. So it cuts out a lot of the time to the upgrade from 20H2 to 22H2. Also keep in mind this works if you have an older build like 1809 and you still want to upgrade it to 22H2. This allows you to do that without having to download it and go through the whole DISM command process to actually do the in-place upgrade. Again, I'll put this script inside of the description so that way you can grab it if you want to use it for this or for any other purpose in the Windows 10 realm. It works fine. I'll also add into there some additional instructions inside of the description, specifically what you can remove if you want to. For instance, if you want to actually have it do the check, you could do that. Whatever. Right now I have it just so it's silent, so it doesn't bother me. It runs in the background. Eventually it finishes. You just reboot the box. You're good to go. All right, so let's reboot the system and see what we have as far as size and I guess OS. See if there's any errors, things of that nature once we get the system back up. Okay, guys, so the system came back up. I'm about to log into it for the first time since the reboot. You'll notice right away that our theme pack is gone, at least in the startup process. So once we're into the operating system, we still have our desktop background, but I'm wondering if we still have the theme pack. We still have additional themes still on here that were not on here before. Let's go into the system config itself and see what version we have actually running. There we go. We've upgraded it now to 22H2. So let's take a look around and see if everything still functions. And then let's take a look at the size of the operating system. And also, let's turn the PowerShell restriction back on so that way we maintain our security. So I guess the first thing we could do is let's open up Ghost Toolbox and see if that still works. Okay, so the shortcut still works. Okay, so it looks like the toolbox still works in 22H2, at least our upgraded version. Sweet, so that still works. So something else you guys are going to notice is the fact that Microsoft Edge is back on the system. So it appears that during our upgrade process, it aligns, reapplies, reinstalls most of the generic and basic configurations. So it looks like we likely lost our size and maybe additional customizations that took place to the system, which made it smaller in size for actual installation purposes. All right, so it appears that what we've done here is we've now doubled and nearly tripled the size of the original installation process by upgrading it to 22H2. So I think the answer to the question, can you upgrade this and use this, is not if you want to maintain or retain the original configuration or small size. Once you do the in-place upgrade, it's going to rewrite and overwrite all the configuration files and all the settings. And once that happens, at that point, you're probably pretty close to the base image of Windows 10. So let's take a look at Windows 10 itself in a vanilla and OEM configuration and out-of-the-box install with all the updates and see what the difference is in the size of the operating system. Okay guys, so this is just a Windows 10 system that has all the updates. This is 22H2 as well. This particular system doesn't have the VMware tools installed on it. It's basically right out of the box, all the Windows updates installed. Let's take a look to see how big the drive is. So we could see that the difference in the drive size on a vanilla OEM machine, this is like an ISO file you would install with all the updates installed on it with just the operating system, is going to be about 25 gigs in size. Now, if we take into consideration that this operating system is 25.1, I think in reality that's what it is, 25 gigs, and the other one was I think 21.2 gigs in size, then the OEM out of the box is still almost 4 gigs bigger than the Ghost version with the upgraded package, the 22H2. So it makes us wonder specifically what the difference in the installed operating system is. Because again, if we're talking one-to-one configuration, that other OS should still be bigger because it does have applications installed on it, whereas this has nothing outside of the OEM configuration and updates. Okay, so let's set our execution policy back to restricted on our Ghost system. So to do that, you're just going to do set execution policy and then set it as restricted and then hit your enter. And then when it asks you what you want to set as your restricted policy, at that point you just hit A again for yes for all. And now your policy's back set to restricted. So we could just do get execution policy, hit enter, you'll see restricted. So we set our policy configuration back, so now our PowerShell limitations are back in place. So now that we have the security turned back on, let's turn the Windows firewall off on this thing, jump over in the Nessus scan, and run a scan on this operating system now that the operating system is updated with the 22H2 patch on our Scepter Ghost system. And to do that, simply just, it's netsh adv firewall set all profile state off. There you go. Okay, so now the Windows firewall is disabled. So we're gonna give the system a static IP address, and once we have our static IP address set, we'll run a scan against the system from the Tenable side and see if our output or outcome changed since we did the in-place upgrade to 22H2. Okay guys, so we are on our Tenable scanner. And specifically, I want to just jump in real quick and take a look at our out-of-the-box Ghost configuration. So we could see originally we had 8 infos. That's all that was listed originally for our original configuration on our 20H2 configuration. And again, scanning it with the particular system, we only scanned for 20H2 vulnerabilities found in the operating system. So the fact that the variety of the operating system was removed really plays into the scan function and what we get as the output. But now that we've done the 22H2 upgrade and we've nearly doubled the operating system size, or really over doubled the operating system size, since we went from 8.5 gigs, I think, to now 21 gigs. I mean, that's, you know, it's quite a bit. Let's see and take a look at the other Ghost 10 Nessus scan to see specifically what it is we get. Okay, so there we go. Once we're in the configuration here for the latest scan, we see that we have the single vulnerability again. And that single vulnerability is back to our SMB signing problem with the Windows Update garbage. So I think for the sake of this, there's no reason for us to run the script to fix it. We already know how to fix it. We already know that we're pending Microsoft Windows to release an update to fix that scripting issue or the signature issue on our SMB configuration for both the latest build for Windows 10 as well as now Windows 11. And that was supposed to be released, I believe, in March on the 3rd, but clearly it's the 28th now. We're not getting it anytime soon, maybe next month. With that said, we know how to fix that. But we also know that we have 38 infos, right? So we know that the 20H2 version is actually more secure, all things considered more secure. We don't have as much going on in that operating system. It's slimmed down. So I think for our next video, we're going to have to take a look at the 20H2 version and see, once we start to install applications like, say, Microsoft Office, maybe we'll install Steam, maybe we'll get a couple different things installed on that system. Let's take a look from a functional standpoint. Is it possible to use that slimmed down system with additional applications? And then adding those additional applications, does it add any vulnerabilities to our configuration since we're running the 20H2 configuration of the operating system? Hopefully you guys enjoyed this series so far. I'll continue on making it until we get to the end. Usually I'll do 5 videos in each one of these series, so hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Let me know in the comments if there's anything in addition you want me to check out in these operating systems. I'd gladly do it. Thanks a lot, guys. Take it easy.